So once you've gone through your short and then your full endorsement, what do you do at the end of the conversation? How do you wrap up the conversation, and what do you do? So the goal of this video is to take you through the different scenarios and give you some ideas. Again, there's no one perfect thing to do, but I'll identify the main things and the common occurrences that happen at the end of the conversation. And there's usually three ways it can go. You can move the person on to the develop phase of the communication process, move them on to the introduce phase of the communication process, or there's no interest there and you don't move them on to anything in the communication process. You stay in the connect step. So I'll go through each one of these into more detail. So the develop step. And remember, this is where you're building the bridge over the river from Jason's example in the communication training course. And so you're going to develop them to help give them more ideas that will lead them down to network marketing and lead them to your company. So some things you can use to develop are, a book. I've mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad a few times. I like that. If you're doing stuff in the 401k retirement example, there's I think it's the book by David Bach. I can't think of the book's title, but there's a book, an audio CD around that. You can use something like that. So whatever book kind of fits your concept or goes along there, hey, recommend it to people or have a few copies and loan it out to people. Or a lot of times now people can download the audiobooks on their iPhone or their Android and listen to it. So recommend the book and check in with them. I mean, don't set an assignment like a school teacher and say, hey, have this book done by such and such a date, but talk with them about it as they start reading it. See what their thoughts are, because that will move on to the introduce step and your company and the network marketing industry. It might be a website, and this could be your website if you've gone through the personal branding training we have, or you already have a website set up. You might refer them to your website for more details, or a specific video you have, or a blog entry, or an ebook. Whatever it is, you could refer them there. And if you learn this business personal endorsement and you have your own website set up, you can do some powerful stuff because not many people have that. And when you do it, it will impress people. And people are like, wow, this guy's the real deal, or this lady's the real deal. She's serious. You can also use other people's website, maybe your upline or someone else in your organization if they have a niche for it or a personality you want them to meet. Sometimes you can use just third-party websites like Rich Dad Poor Dad's got some good websites out there. A few other financial people have got good websites. So, know what's out there and know what can fit well in the develop stage process. Sometimes it's just a continued conversation. Maybe you end the conversation there and say, we'll see you next week, because maybe you see each other every week at the gym and you walk on the treadmill for half an hour next to each other. Maybe it's over a coffee break at work. Maybe it's at your kid's soccer game, whatever. Maybe it's just continued conversation and you kind of just keep talking about things while you're having normal day-to-day life conversations. You may use a develop type CD or DVD from your company or anything from company, a website or a video as well. A lot of companies have information that you can give to people that aren't company or product specific, but are kind of that develop phase to help bring people along to learn more about the network marketing industry or more about, set them up to introduce the company to the product. Now, personally, I usually like to use a book, my website, or just talk with a person. I generally don't use anything from my company until the introduce step, but that's an option for you and your upline to decide. And lastly, think about how someone built the bridge for you. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but go back and think what someone did for you that kind of took you on to the next step to get you signed up into your network marketing business. Now, the other option is maybe it's time to introduce the person to your company or your product, or introduce them to network marketing. And so you could do a three-way call or with your upline, or maybe a three-way presentation if all you guys are local. Maybe do a webinar or teleseminar. I'm personally not a big fan of webinars for introducing people to the business, but some people are, or that's all people have. I like the personal touch on one-on-one presentations or some three-way calls. I see better results with it, but something is always better than nothing. Maybe a group meeting if there's a local meeting that your team has, or if there's a big conference that your company headquarters is doing close to you or nearby. Maybe you can use that to introduce the person. They have a special speaker there one time. Sometimes I just send people to my company website or a specific video for my company, and I'll end the conversation with, hey, I'll send you a video from my website about, the various Olympic athletes and our products. I'll send it to you and we'll talk next week. And so I send the person that video, and while it's not a full-blown presentation, it's the next step in the process to kind of get them even more interested to learn more about the business. Maybe you give a product sample. Some people, want to try the products and believe in the products before they join the business. I understand that and I respect that. And a lot of times, some of my best team members come from trying the products first. So maybe you need to sample the product to them, or maybe they order a month or 2 months supply and say, I got to try it for a month and see how I feel before I put my name to it. Great. If that's something a person has to do, you help them out and you get them on there. Because if a person has great results with the products like that and they're into the business, they'll have a powerful story then as they go out there and start recruiting their team. One of my favorites is getting together for a coffee Q&A presentation, where I will usually bring along a few documents or a few things with me, but just go out to the local coffee shop and have a conversation with a person where it's back and forth, but I'm also presenting my business, the products and what I'm doing, and show them some things. A lot of times I'll pull out my laptop or my iPad and show people the marketing we have online, because a lot of times that's a big interest that people want to see. And of course, those are just some examples. The way you'll introduce your company is going to depend on what resources you have and what's available, and locations and your skill sets and all that. So make sure you work with your mentor or you work with your trading calls and figure out what the best next step is for someone you're talking with. And again, think back to how you were introduced into the business, because a lot of times the way you were introduced can work really well as you introduce other people to the business. Now, the third option is there's just no interest there, and this could be no interest from your short script, or maybe you move on to the full script and the person has no interest. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Not everyone's going to be interested. So maybe you just make a new friend. Maybe there's nothing there on the business side of things, but you two have some common interest. Golfing or hiking or watching this TV show or politics, whatever it is. Maybe just make a new friend. That's completely all right. And I've met some great people by using my endorsements, and you just live a happier life. And that's it. Maybe it's you build a relationship. I mentioned in my previous video for one of my college friends where I had him read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it wasn't the right time for him, but 7 or 8 years later, he got back in touch with me and said, hey, I need to talk with you about that. Well, after I had him read Rich Dad Poor Dad, we stayed in touch over the years. Did a normal college thing. We still hung out during college. We graduated, fell apart, talked 2 or 3 times a year. And I never really brought up the business unless he said, are you still doing that or anything like that? But I just, we stayed friends. We kept doing what we're doing. And then years later, he came back and wanted some more details. Sometimes you meet someone and you never want to see that person again. So don't feel like you have to recruit everyone or do something with everyone in the business. And to give you an example, I was actually at the gym a few days ago, and I was just doing some stretching and some light stuff, and kind of in the area with all the floor mats and ab exercise stuff. And this lady started out and asked me a question, and I gave her some advice back, but then for the next 45 minutes told me her life story of how the whole world is stacked against her. And she wanted to know more details about the business I did, because I used one of my short endorsement scripts in the beginning of our conversation, because I thought she's a nice lady, who knows. But then a half hour after talking with her, nice lady, but I really don't care to have her in my business or really ever see her again, because she's just one of those people where it's a up and down roller coaster and it's constant drama. So sometimes you want to avoid the person. That's all right too. And remember, whether you said something to someone, you're making a friend, or you pursue them, or you give them information and things die off, situations and interests change. You never know who might call you back a year later, or a week later, or a month later and say, you know what, Chris, I need to talk to you again about this. Something changed in my job and I got to do something. Or I met with my financial planner and I'm not going to be able to retire. I got to figure out something. Tell me more about this little business you're doing. You know, who knows? So make sure you advertise what you're doing. Even if the person has no interest at that time or it never goes anywhere, you never know what will happen a month or a year down the road. And I didn't put this on the slide here, but if it's a new person you're meeting, make sure you get their contact details, whether you get a business card from them or you hook up with them on Facebook or LinkedIn. Somehow stay in touch. I'm not a big fan of just giving out my business card. In fact, I don't have business cards. If I'm meeting with someone and we hit it off or there's interest there, I'll just pull out my phone. I've got an iPhone or a smartphone, and I'll say, hey Mark, what's your email and what's your phone number? All right, cool. Hey, I'm gonna text you my information so you have it, and I'll send you over that website later tonight when I get home. And so make sure you get their contact details in some form or the other. Now, the biggest thing you can do here is take action. I don't want you to worry about perfection as you start putting together your short and then your full endorsement. You've heard my examples and how they've kind of changed from example to example and situation to situation. Nothing is written in stone, and as you get better, as you get more experience, as you learn more, things will change. And it's a fluid process, meaning you can't fit this one-size model to it, other than you have to use your endorsement and go out there and talk with people. And this is both with people you meet around town, with people that come in as leads off your websites, with friends, with people in your network, whatever. Go out there and use your endorsement because you are advertising your business and you are advertising what you're doing. Now, I want to share a little fact with you about success ratios, because I don't want you to worry about the fact that you used your business endorsement 3 times and got no results with it. Big deal. I use mine all the time and get no results. But in Major League Baseball, the batting average for the entire league was right around 250. So this was taking all the baseball players for that year and then averaging out their batting average, and it came out to 250. So what a batting average is every time a player comes up to home plate and they have an at-bat, they either get on base or they get out. That's what it really comes down to. And so the league average was 250, meaning that for every 100 bats the player was at, they only got on base 25% of the time or had something positive 25% of the time. The other 75 times or 75% of the times, they struck out, they grounded out, they got out, whatever. They were not successful at getting on base or hitting a home run, they got out. And guess what? They have a 25% success ratio, and most of those guys are paid, multi-million dollars, and even the people on the lowest pay scale out there are getting paid how many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, I think is a league minimum. They get paid a lot still, and their success ratio is 25%. So are you going to have a 100% success ratio with your endorsement script? No. Will it be 75%? Probably not. It'll probably be around 5 to 20%, something around that, and that's fine. Because you go out there and look at averages from Major League Baseball or other sports, you'll see most athletes fail more often than they succeed. But they succeed a little bit more than most other people out there, and that's what gets them paid the millions and millions of dollars. And that's what separates a lot of times the successful network marketing leaders, is that they're willing to go out there and fail a little bit more than most people because they go up there and take more at bats than most people and swing the bat more, and they improve upon their skills and learn more, so they have a little bit higher success ratio than most people out there. So keep that in mind as you go out there and start doing this. And the last piece of advice I'll give you is I want you to keep a business journal. This is something I recommend to all my team members. Not everyone does it, but the people who do, they have a lot higher success ratio, they sponsor more people, and they have a higher success ratio a higher success ratio in their team sponsoring people. So every time you use your script, or you have a conversation, or you do a presentation, or you make a phone call regarding your business, keep notes on there. Maybe just jot down the person's name, what happened, and what you said or any questions that popped in your mind. And then what you'll do is you'll take that back, get with your upline, or go to a weekly training call and say, here's what happened, or here's a situation. I said this, she said this, and this is what happened. What should I have done, or what could I have done better? Because this is how you do that perfection. This is how you improve. This is how you make those adjustments. This is what I did when I joined the business. I took it all the time to my upline, and he helped me out tremendously. And that's how I got really good really fast. And the people who do that, they get really good really fast. So I know it's a hard habit to get into, but make sure you do it, because I think it's a lot harder to spend months or years with a slower learning curve than spending 5 minutes after each conversation and jotting down a few notes and then working with your upline or someone on a training call to improve.